22nd of February. Arrive at Firesole in time for what in England would be termed as high tea. Of course, there is no tea to be had here, not in Italy. Either you go to Florence and imbibe sophistication, or you stay at home and you have a cup of PG Tips. Talking of PG Tips reminds me, I wonder what happened to those two chimpanzees that shouted on those TV adverts many years ago, "Tea, Mr. Shifter." That somewhat unedifying image of the chimpanzees forces itself upon me, and its unwanted attentions enters my mind as I lay prostrate, flat on my back, in the Basilica of St. Lorenzo Church in Florence, admiring the creations of Michelangelo above my head. "Well," says Mother, quoting the famous song, "what makes that little ant think he'll move a rubber tree plant? But just look at what Michelangelo," as she somewhat gnomically refers to Michelangelo as, "just look at what he's done with those ceilings. Well, it's marvellous. Anyway," she says, "look at them," pointing at the ceilings. "They're absolutely spotless to boot." 2nd of March. We journeyed to Harold Acton's retreat high up in the Tuscan hills surrounding Florence, from where he tended his magnificent collection of pre-Raphaelite and artwork and other treasures as well. "Was he at Oxford with you, Alan?" Mother asks, as we maypole dance around the statue of a Greek youth in the still well-tended gardens of Harold Acton's mansion, he having died some 40-odd years ago. "I feel quite dizzy now," says Mother, as she finally steadies herself on a nearby urn. "High art doesn't half go to your head," she remarks. "No, Mother," I said, "Harold Acton was not my generation." And, thinking of the creator of Brideshead Revisited, I add, he was of the war milieu. Mother says, "I wish you'd stop having such morbid thoughts, Alan, thinking about the war in such beautiful surroundings as these. It's not seemly at all," she says, and goes off in what we would call up north as a huff, but a term which seems singularly inappropriate in these magnificent surroundings. Florence Nightingale was named after this city, you know, Mother, I say to her. She sets her face in a funny expression and says, "Now, she used to sing, you know." I said, "What are you going on about, Mother?" She says, "Florence Nightingale. I'm sure she used to sing." I said, "Mother, I am talking about Florence Nightingale, the famous nurse." She said, "Well, all I know, Alan, is there was a Nightingale that used to sing in Berkeley Square during the war, which you were going on about before. Now, how do we know it wasn't the same one as your Florence Nightingale?" I just shook my head and sighed. 5th of March. The final call in at the Uffizi Gallery, where I'm keen to see Venus Emerging from Her Shell by Botticelli, though of course it doesn't go by that name. Mother surprises me and says, "Wasn't that Bananarama?" I said, "Well, what do you mean, Mother, Bananarama? I'm talking about the famous painting by Sandro Botticelli, The Birth of Venus." Mother sniffles and goes on, "Well, art's for everybody, you know. How do we know that Bananarama didn't come here and get inspired by that painting you're going on about and write their masterpiece?" I inquired as to what this masterpiece might be that Mother was referring to which she burst forth with a few bars of, "She's got it. I'm your Venus, I'm your fire, your desire." I shook my head and sighed for what seemed like the umpteenth time on this trip. 6th of March. On the journey back to England, I make a note not to bring Mother on more culturally edifying expeditions such as these. Admiration of the Maggie being pipped at the post in terms of quenching Mother's cultural thirst by a quick trip down to Aldi. Slumbering with my head on the rattling railway carriage window, I gently drift off into sleep with the ephemeral sounds of the train going over the rails. Tuscan sounds tickling the sensations of my earlobes as I do so. To sleep, perchance to dream. 7th of March. Harold Acton must have been one of the last of a long line of romantics to have lived in Italy and made it his adopted home. Yet I can't help wondering if, just occasionally, he had a hankering to go in for a bit of DIY. I don't suppose so, but really, who can say? One never knows. Ah well, arrivederci Roma, even though we never went.